Welcome back to Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I will be joined by Liam Carrigan, all the way in from Japan. I'm going to have to interrupt him as he is watching the game, the big game that obviously our very own Kyogo and Hatate are part of. So thanks everybody for getting involved in the Acsom chat already, and hopefully we can have a right good discussion about everything leading up to the Hearts game. I am, of course, in a brand new studio today. We will be improving everything as we go along, from the backdrop to the sound to the picture and everything else. But it's slightly better looking in terms of the lighting than it was before. So thank you all for getting involved. And Liam will be joining us very, very soon. And in the meantime, we're going to bring in some of your comments. We've got Xander Mack straight off the bat. Kyogo scored just before halftime. Yes, he did. And I think I want to talk to Liam quite a bit, actually, about Kyogo, about Hatate, about how that game is going and how each of those players have changed since Brendan Rodgers, or Brendan as we call him, has come into the club, come back into the club. That is. And I think that when you consider the other day, obviously Jerry and I went on about it quite a bit, which is fair enough because it was a massive day for everybody involved with St. Roch's, with Acsom, of course, and also anybody else who was there and got the chance to meet the big fella, Brendan Rodgers. Now, we have a wee video that we're going to play here because Jerry did a kind of day in the life, and I know we spoke about it at length, but I'm going to play a wee video in a second or two just to give you a sense of the experience. What does it feel like to play for Celtic for a day? Well, Jerry Taylor, our very own, is going to tell you all about it.
So it's about 7:15 in the morning here, as you can tell. But I've not been able to sleep properly all night. I've been too excited. It's like Christmas. So, got everything ready to go. Got the Acsom merch, got to represent. Gloves. You shower for after, new t-shirt, Domingo with big Frank McAvenny. And there's my boxers, you don't need to see that. You don't need to see them. You don't need to see them. So I'm about to pack this up, get in the car, leave Girvan. I'll leave Girvan in about an hour. Still want to get into any traffic, even though it's a Sunday. But if anyone was going to hit traffic on a Sunday, it would be me. The state of me. Anyway, I'll see you on the road there. So it's now 8:30 in the morning, and I'm just about to leave a sunny Girvan to head to a secret location. I'm not even kidding, a secret location to meet the team, to get picked up on the coach, to then get driven to the stadium. And just saying it out loud, excitement strewn with nerves. It's like, it's sinking in. I'm about to go and get shouted at by Neil Lennon. Life does not get any better than this. Come on the Acsom! So I've just been at a Primark to buy myself some trendy new togs for the after-match soiree. I'm off the bevy, but I'll be going for the occasion, that's for sure. I'm about 2 hours early, so by the time I get up to Glasgow, I'll be about an hour early, and I'm just going to sit in the car park and soak it all up. Every single moment of it. Has it sunk in yet? I don't think it'll sink in until Neil Lennon calls me a fanny. So that's me on the way to the secret location to get the team coach. I'm early, so I'm just cutting about this area. Fucking shit and bustle. I'm not nervous about the game. Oh, just tripped up there, see what I mean? I'm nervous about being in the dressing room, to be honest. Opening my mouth and saying something stupid. So we're here doing the wee walk of the pitch. Just Bobby Petter there. He ate one of my fizzy fish. There's Macca, Frank McAvenny, just cutting about the flag, you know. This is fucking mental. Benji boy! Dressing room with a legend, Macca.
How are you, sir? You alright?
What do you think the score's going to be?
14.
I'm going to go for the goals. On the go!
Well done, man. I'll take it, man. Brendan Rodgers just turned up to give us a half-time team talk.
The game's over, and I think I've got a good song for you all. So Jerry in the goal. Jerry.
Nah. With the green and white on my chest, you know that I rap for the greatest.
You did?
Us man for the one from ages, so them man, when I tell
You did?
when I see the boys in green coming.
There you have it, Jerry, one of our newest contributors, thoroughly enjoying his day, and who can blame him? I asked you what you thought of the studio. You said it sounds empty. It is empty. There's just me and a wee table in here, so we will get everything set up. Obviously, we were a wee bit waylaid with the big game at the weekend. We're waiting on Liam. He's messaged me to say that he's got a slight connection issue, but that's not a problem. We can soldier on just between us, all you guys and girls in the comments, and myself. Where are you watching it from? I always like to hear where you are watching and tuning in to Acsom from. Obviously, you'll be watching it on various platforms: Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And if you are watching on YouTube, you want to comment, all you need to do is subscribe to the channel. And you know what? When you do that, hit the notifications bell. And then you will be told every time we are going to be doing a new video. Now that I'm in my new studio, I might just jump on for some impromptu evening time shows as well. So keep your eyes on that. Paddy Lavery, new studio looks very bland, PJD. Yes, it does. Nice grey walls, just plastered and painted. So we will be putting some Celtic-related items up there, I'm pretty sure, Paddy. We've got quite a few. It sounds empty. Yeah, it does. It does sound empty. It is at the moment, but we'll put that right once we get everything up the road. Now, Paul McLean. Hey, guys, any update on Rocky? Obviously, Mike Novrotsky. It was a big signing in the summer. He, I think, was signed in to replace Carl Starfelt. It's not quite worked out that way. We know what the situation has been with the centre halves. It's been something of an injury crisis. Unprecedented. I promise to you, stop using that word during the pandemic. Unprecedented central defensive crisis when it comes to injuries. So Novrotsky, no, I've not heard an update. And I was so blown away with the presence and charisma of Brendan Rodgers. I didn't think to ask him. Sorry, Paul. If it was next weekend, I certainly would have asked him then. And we've also got Mark E, who gives us his predicted team for Sunday. Okay, let's have a read through this then. Joe Hart in goals. I've got to say, I've got a wee note here talking about Andre Lunin, who apparently is a goalkeeper that we might be interested in bringing to the club. So we'll have a wee chat with Liam once he comes in from Japan around Joe Hart's future. I think it was always part of the plan. We'll look at the profile of our apparent Ukrainian target to see if it's the right kind of profile. Check out a blog written by Paddy Sinnott. He'll have shared that on his social media. He takes a wee deep dive into the new signing, potential new signing. Right back, Mark, you've got Alistair Johnston, who would be coming fresh from his international duty. Didn't do too well against Japan, but you know what? Get all the mistakes out in international breaks and then come back and get back to your normal form at Celtic, I think. Left back, Greg Taylor, who still has a game to play for Scotland. Bit of a dead rubber when you're just concerned about getting your players back injury-free. And of course, the central defensive partnership that you've chosen, Mark, consists of another two players who are on international duty, Cameron Carter-Vickers and Liam Scales. So when you look at the back five, you've got Joe Hart, who was an international goalkeeper for England for a number of years, you know, going to the top tournaments internationally. And then the back four, all international players with Johnston, Taylor, Carter-Vickers and Scales. Let us know in the comments, do you disagree with the back five that Mark has selected? I've got to say, so far, Mark, I agree with every selection you've made. Carter-Vickers still has another game for America. And Liam Scales played in both games. It was fantastic to see him getting his debut against Greece the other night. And of course, he followed that up with his second cap against Gibraltar. I spoke about Liam Scales and his international endeavours last week. The fact that it was Stephen Kenny that gave him his under-21 debut. Stephen Kenny now, of course, is the manager of Ireland. And I was talking name dropping all week. I'm sorry. I apologise in advance. I was talking to Paul Byrne, ex-Celt, about the about the rise of Liam Scales, but also about his knowledge of Stephen Kenny. Stephen Kenny was a friend of Paul Burns as a player, and he regards him really highly, actually, although he's had a really tough time of it, hasn't he, in relation to recent results for Ireland. I think that he's a manager who's done so well in Irish football, had a wee spell over in Scotland. Although he got Dunfermline to a cup final, he didn't. It wasn't a resounding success. You speak to people here in Fife, which is where I'm based. We do still get Wi-Fi in Fife. It's great, but obviously I will be getting that improved as well. Just as I invite wee James McKenzie, I say wee, he's a much bigger boy than me, young James McKenzie, into the stream. He'll be joining us, and hopefully Liam's internet issues over in Japan are resolved and he can come in as well. Right, so we're talking international football. We're talking all the players who are coming back. What does it do for our international stars? But Burnsy was saying, look at me calling him Burnsy like he's my mate. Paul Byrne was saying that Liam Scales, obviously, his trajectory's been phenomenal. He didn't see it coming because of the fact that he was almost out the door. But he's been given this opportunity, hasn't he, due to the unprecedented injury crisis at the back, and he's grabbed it with both hands, and he's playing for a manager who knows him well and who regards him and rates him highly, having given him his debut for the under-21s. And of course, Cameron Carter-Vickers is the keystone to that back line. Who do you think, though? I know we've already had a question around Nawrocki. Who do you think is the long-term partner for Carter-Vickers, right? Even the fact that I'm saying it might be disrespectful to Liam Scales because he's certainly not done anything to lose his jersey. But who do you think? Is it going to be Nawrocki? Because he was clearly signed as a replacement. Same kind of transfer fee profile as Carl Starfelt. Let's move into your midfield then, Mark. Anyone else who agrees or disagrees with Mark, let us know in the comments and we'll go through your team predictions. We'll get this stream through the first 15 minutes and then I'll be joined by Liam, James, or both. But also, let me know about what you think about Jerry's wee video there. I know there was a few wee swearies. Apologies if any of your kids overheard that. But Jerry was living the dream. He was living the dream of all the Acsom contributors, and he was living the dream of probably every Celtic fan in the world, actually. Lining up, being in the dressing room with all the Celtic players, lining up alongside them and being given a team talk at halftime by none other than Brendan Rodgers. Now, I'm going to bring young James in, and I need to get used to calling him young James. There he is. He's coming in. He was a commentator at the weekend. James McKenzie, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. I didn't think I was going to be on today's show. I was expecting a contractor to be coming in and doing some work, but it was a lot earlier than expected. And I saw you on your lonesome, so I thought I'd quickly come and jump on.
I know, because people will say he's moved studio and it's all falling to bits. It's crumbling around his ears. Listen, I can talk for 60 minutes about Celtic. I would have done that, but it's absolutely brilliant to see that you're here, James. And when you said that you had a contract, I thought maybe you'd been signed up after your commentary endeavours at the weekend. How did you enjoy that with JP?
Well, I usually do the commentary for Bonnery Grows every Saturday. I've been doing that for about a year now, and that's relatively easy because I've got a team sheet in front of me with all the players. One of the first problems with commentating the game, it was great fun. It was a great laugh. First, it was a great day, great occasion. Thank you to everybody that came up and said hello. And it was all for a good cause at the end of the day, and it was a great celebration, no matter what the score was. But when I commentate those games, I usually have a team sheet in front of me. For this game, I didn't have the numbers. I didn't have the numbers or the names for the St. Roch's players, so I was just going off the website. And then I was stunned when I saw the Celtic Select team walk out all wearing number 7 on their shirt. So as you mentioned, young James, I'm not too familiar with a lot of the older players. So I was having to rely on JP to help me out quite a bit, but it was great fun. It was good to have a bit of jokes. And I think there was around 1,600 people watching live for most of the stream. So it was great fun. It was good to see everybody getting involved as well.
Oh, it was great. And actually, I was just looking at the stream this morning because I want to know who you think was the man of the match for Celtic. You know, this isn't something you get the opportunity to be involved in that often, James. So I really want to fulfill obviously the dreams of Jerry, but, fulfill the contribution of everyone, including some of the players who may not have been known to Celtic fans, but who performed really well. So we're running a wee man of the match competitions. I've ran a vote. I've ran a poll on my social media channels. So please give us your vote. If you want to watch the game in its entirety, then tune into that on the YouTube channel. I've got to say, I really enjoyed the commentary, James. I'm not just saying this. I really enjoyed the commentary.
I'm wearing my Jimmy Johnson Academy polo shirt. Just
Nice. And you're
association
buttoned
with the
up.
game.
Yeah, buttoned up like the proper mod. Brilliant. No, you're right. And I've already explained, but for anyone who didn't know, we did have every player wearing the number 7 on their jerseys and the number 10 on their shorts. The reason for that is we were up at St. Roch's. We were up at James McGrory Park. He famously signed for Celtic from the Rock and became the greatest goal scorer in British football. And the thing is that it's not lost on many, but when we talk about the Lisbon Lions, we think Jock Stein. And Jock Stein was the mastermind, the incredible coach, the man who was ahead of his time, a trailblazer on European soil. And you've got to remember, though, that James McGrory assembled that team. He brought in and signed 9 of the players. Obviously, Bertie left and came back. And officially, when he came back, James McGrory was still the manager. So he would have signed Bertie twice. And obviously that was the reason that we wanted to pay tribute to a couple of the Lions, and another Lion in John Clark led the team out. So it was very much looking back on the day as well, because it was a centenary. But yeah, you're wearing your Jimmy Johnson polo shirt there, James, wearing it with pride. Wee Jinky's number 7 was on the shirts of all those players. Please watch the game. Let us know what you think. I thought James and JP were brilliant. Yesterday I was clearing a few things out, so I had it on in the background, having watched the game, but I just wanted to listen to the commentary, and I really did enjoy it. And let us know who your man of the match is.
I had a couple of accusations of swearing thrown my way. As a model professional, I know I would never do that. So I'm not too sure who was
guilty. Was it people in the background, perhaps?
I think it was people in the background, because it definitely wasn't me. The giggling might have been me and JP. But
there was a lot of that going on.
Where we called, I can't remember who crossed it, we called a Tommy Sheridan diving bullet header at the back post. And that just had us, I had myself in hysterics for like a good minute and a bit. But if I'm going to say my man of the match, if I'm looking at the Celtic select team, going off my commentary, the player I was mentioning the most was Scott McDonald. That's because he was the most involved in the game. He was the man that was getting things going. For the majority of the game, there was a couple of players that caught me by surprise. Bobby Petta put in a really good display. I was surprised at how fit John Yogi Hughes was. I'm not going to take a guess or a stab at his age, but he looked very fit, and he was kind enough to give me a little interview. I was doing some filming for the uni at the side as well. Thank you to Tony Casty, if you're watching, for helping me out a little bit with that. But I was able to get words with Yogi. I was able to get words with Tommy Sheridan. It was a great day all round.
It was a great day all round, and Big Yogi looks really, really lean, like you say. He's so fit. It was great to see him. He said that when I approached him and spoke to him, he said, "Oh, I can't wait to get back in the hoops." And I wasn't allowed to tell him that we weren't wearing the hoops, but obviously he did pull on the Celtic jersey. I'll go back to the team I was reading out from Marquee in just a second. I've still got it here, but before we move on, the commentary, right? So I don't know who was responsible for the expletives. I went into the video file last night and I tried to clip them so that we don't upset anybody. Some of our younger viewers might repeat those words in front of their parents and get into trouble. But here are some of my favourite moments from the commentary, James McKenzie. First one came from our very own JP, who was phenomenal on the day. And he said, "Absolutely world-class tackle from Rudy Vatter there. Brilliant." I never thought I'd hear that at James McGrory Park. He went on, we were talking about the score, and you corrected JP on the fact that there was a goal that it was clearly offside, but it stood. So JP hadn't counted it. And the comment that really tickled me was, "Have I missed a goal? Oh my God." And then finally, one of my, probably the favourite of the day, was from, again, JP. No offence, James, but these were all from JP. A real thing happened right now. Saul Davis from James exchanging pleasantries with Brendan Rodgers. It was that kind of day. And I know everybody has heard all about it.
Well, I
We've got some
would
really...
listen to it back. One of my pet peeves with football commentary is the use of the line, "It's in the back of the net." I hate it whenever I hear a commentator say it, but I'm going to give myself a listen back and see if I utter that phrase. I know doing the Bonnyrigg commentary, I've said it on a couple of occasions as much as I try and stop myself.
Thing is, as well, James, you get known, don't you, for repeating certain phrases. When you watch Celtic TV, Paul Cuddy, who lovely guy, by the way, but it's shapes to shoot. And that's what he says all the time.
Ian Cropper, every derby, says, "Who will have their say on Derby Day in Glasgow?" That's his catchphrase. It's for every game.
It's tradition. It's tradition. So you need to get a few. World-class tackle from Rudy Vata may not be one of them, but I'll tell you what, Rudy is a great guy, and I'll tell you, if there's ever someone like a mentor that you could possibly hope for as a young footballer, imagine Rudy being your dad. He's brilliant. You know, the professionalism of that man, to this day, still fit, still training in the gym. And I think he'll be a really good influence on his son, Rocco, who I hope to see at some point this season wearing the green and white hoops. We're talking a wee bit about international football. That will bleed into this weekend's fixture, James, where we go back to Tynecastle, and it's exactly 1 year since VAR was introduced. You wrote a brilliant blog about it. It dropped onto the channel this morning. The Acsom blog can be found at acsom.net. Check it out. That's where we also sell our merchandise, including that fantastic Shamrock top. Shameless plug. But that was a year ago that was introduced. James, I'm going to ask you the first, most simple question. Has it got better since that day?
Well, I think it really set the precedent as to what people think of VAR now. The main argument around VAR is it gets involved too much, the decisions take too long, or it gets a lot of decisions wrong. And if you look at that first game we played with VAR in use against Hearts at Tynecastle last year, those were the main criticisms fans had about it, of its introduction. They're trying to show off the new toy. The decisions are taking far too long. I remember it was a clear decision. Cameron Carter-Vickers hacked down Cammy Devlin in the box. Any fan could see that it was a penalty to Hearts, but the referee, I think he took a good 3-4 minutes to try and come to this conclusion. You can see Ange Postecoglou getting very frustrated on the touchline. And then moments later, just before the break, Celtic denied it was a stonewall penalty. I'm sure anybody can agree that it was a stonewall penalty. Michael Smith's arms are really far out. There's no chance they're by his hips. It was definitely a penalty. And then to top it all off, Hearts got another penalty a bit later on in the game. And I think it was just the constant involvement of VAR when it might not have seemed necessary. The decisions might have seemed obvious from the referee's naked eye in the first place. It's just set the precedent. Celtic fans had a negative perception of VAR from that point onwards, and it's not got any better. Has it got worse? I'm not too sure. I think it's just been the same opinion going on ever since then.
I think so. Listen, even before VAR, let's be honest, our attitude towards the quality, or our opinion rather, towards the quality of officials in this country has never been that high. And I think that in terms of VAR, we've seen even during the international break that there are issues elsewhere. It's not just in Scotland because we've got the Mickey Mouse version. I'm going to welcome Liam Carrigan coming in. He's obviously had a few issues with the stream because it looks like a different angle that you are dialing in from, Liam. How are you doing?
Yep, we've had to go for the emergency laptop here.
We've all got
one. I don't know what to say beyond I would sooner fight 1,000 ninjas than face one computer right now. Honestly, this is an absolute nightmare.
It can
be. £500 of new hardware and it just packs up on me. Anyway,
we're good. We're going to come to you actually because we know that obviously the action has been ongoing with Japan, with both Hatate and Kyogo starting that game, Kyogo opening and scoring. So we're hoping to get a wee update from you on that one as well, Liam. But we're just talking there about the fact that not only am I sitting in a cavernous new studio with nothing on the wall, that's a year anniversary on Sunday against Hearts that VAR was introduced against the same opponents at the same stadium. And James and I were just discussing there, Liam, whether or not it's getting any better. I think one thing, if I'm going to be balanced, they've improved on the time that it takes to make the decisions.
Well, if anybody's qualified to talk about deficient technologies today, I think it's me. Yeah, VAR is a work in progress, but it is a work in progress because from day one it's been underinvested and inadequately trained. There's no point spending 10 grand on a new computer if you let a monkey operate it. And that's pretty much where we are with VAR.
Is that just generally? You're not talking about today's specific example, are you, there?
No. Although, if a monkey came and said, let me have a go at your computer right now, I would say, have at it. But anyway, no, the thing is, we know about the incompetence of referees. And I said this before VAR even came in. I said, do not think this is going to be the magic bullet that's going to cure everything, because it isn't. Because it's all down to the competence, the integrity, and the honesty of the people running it. And the referee still has the ultimate discretion as to whether he's going to even look at VAR or not. And that is where we have issues, because quite often you see players saying, go to the camera, have a look at that. And the refs just look, nah. And it's pure arrogance and hubris. That's all it is.
I think there was a few shouts for that at the weekend as well. JP and James wanted a wee VAR check, but we hadn't the budget to get it implemented. Let's be honest, it wouldn't have been any worse than the Kuola one that Scottish Football Association has backed. Listen, we don't tend to talk about the other team in Glasgow. We don't tend to talk about Rangers or obsess about them unless we're playing them. But this comment from Danielle has to be up there with some of the quotes I read out earlier. This is a beauty. Here we go. I'm raging that we Spice Boy, no talking about you, James, actually having the nerve to come for a golden boot. Premier League winner in Scotland and England player in Sutton when he's won, and in capital letters, nothing. Daniel, I'm just going to leave it there because I can't expand on that any further. You've just nailed it in one go. Before we get to the Japan game and a wee update from you, Liam, I was looking through Marquis' predicted team for the weekend, right up to the back five. I was in total agreement. Let's have a look at the midfield where Mark goes for McGregor, O'Reilly and Hatate. I can't argue with that. O'Reilly, of course, we'll come back to him, potentially making his international debut tonight. Maeda, I think the question mark's whether or not he's injured Palmer and Kyogo. If Maeda's fit, yeah, we go with it with him. If he's not, we'll have a wee discussion about that as well. So, James, let's talk about the team selection that Mark has made. Do you agree, disagree? What's your thoughts about the lineup?
I think he's hit the nail on the head. That's the exact team I would go with for the game at Tynecastle. The only question mark is over Daizen Maeda's fitness. I think it was when he arrived in international duty. I'm not sure if it was in training or whatever that he actually picked up the knock. I'm sure Liam can probably update us on that. But if Maeda's injured, who fills in? Does he go for James Forrest? Does he go for Yang Hyun-jun? Who does he opt to use? Does he even go for a injured Marco Tilly? Or as Robert Highlands mentioned in the comments, does Mikey Johnson potentially have an outside shout?
Timing is everything, isn't it?
Games? He could potentially appear on the bench for this game. Who knows? I think if Rodgers, he seems to prefer Yang out of the other options that are available at the moment. So if anybody's going to fill in that wing position, it probably would be Yang. And that allows Palmer to play off of the left as well if you're going to play Yang on the right. I think Yang has probably played the strongest at Celtic so far on the right-hand side. That's looked like his most natural position. So I'd like to see him come in if Maeda is, of course, injured.
Listen, thanks everybody for your comments. I know that it looks as though I'm doing a hostage video here, but I will add a little bit of colour. To the backdrop as we gradually move on. Liam, I'm going to ask you first and foremost, obviously Maeda played a lot of his football on the left last season, but Palmer looks so strong out there that Maeda has adapted and gone over to the right. Do you think he's as effective on the right, Liam?
At the moment, no, but in time he will be, because throughout his career, Maeda has adapted to different positions wherever he's played. He's never played the same position for two teams in a row. He was a sort of a roving front man at Yamaga. He was part of a striking partnership at Yokohama, and since he came to Celtic, he's largely been a left winger. And when he plays for Japan, he usually plays as a solitary centre forward. So he can play wherever he's told to play, and give him time to adapt to the system, he'll be fine.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had that discussion previously, and you've spoken about how right at the grassroots level, Liam, you know, Japanese footballers are taught to have that adaptability. It's not as though you turn up and say I'm a left back, and obviously we've seen a wee bit of that with Hatate playing full back. So I think that he's a very unselfish player, whereby it's maybe not his favourite position, but he'll go there knowing that Palma is very effective on the left, or he has looked pretty effective on the left. If we don't have Maeda, an appearance from Maeda, Liam, do you think Mikey Johnson might have listen, this opens up a larger discussion around players performing well at international level, because I think Lagerbielke probably would be in the same boat. Does it make any bearing on the decision on Sunday for Brendan Rodgers, the fact that Mikey Johnson's done pretty well for Ireland?
Look, first of all, well done to Mikey Johnson and what he's done with Ireland. You know, playing for your country is a tremendous achievement, and congratulations. It's something that everybody dreams about, I think. Well, people who are interested in international football dream about it anyway. But I ultimately don't think it's going to impact what happens at Celtic, because Brendan Rodgers is about doing what's right for Celtic, not necessarily what's doing right by Ireland or Scotland or any international team. You know, so I think that Yang gets the shout if Maeda's no fit, because that is where Rodgers has gone, and then Forrest is on the bench. So I think despite Johnson having an impact during the week, I don't see him figuring at the weekend for Celtic, and it's unfortunate, but it's just we've got too many good players in that position already.
Yeah, we do. And by the way, it probably goes back to one of the points I made earlier on about Rocco Vata. We've not even spoken about him as an option, and I think that after making a breakthrough last season, and obviously going back to the international level, every time he's made that step up, he has continued to make the progression and the positive impact right up to under 21 level for Ireland. We should be talking about him. He should be part of the discussion. But obviously, he's not kicked a ball competitively yet for Brendan Rodgers. I think that if Maeda doesn't make it, gents, I think that Rodgers will go for Forrest. I think this is the type of scenario that Forrest is going to get game time. And I don't go back a year ago, because there's a lot can change in a year, and know that Forrest had a good impact on that particular game. I'm just saying that I think Rodgers trusts him. You know, he's one of the old guard. He does trust him. Yang has shown in dispatches that he's got something, and I think we'll see a lot more of that as the season progresses. But going into that game at Tynecastle, I just feel that it's a safer option. I think Brendan Rodgers is going to go for James Forrest. There you go. I said it. We're going to go through a few more of the international stars, hopefully, who will be returning injury-free for the game on Sunday at Tynecastle, Liam. But give us a wee update on what's happening with Samurai Blue, the Japanese international team who are playing Tunisia. It's been listed as a friendly, but on the graphic it says the Kirin Challenge Cup. Is that a friendly trophy? Is that a Mickey Mouse trophy? Is that something that they take seriously?
Well, it's no Mickey Mouse trophy if you're a Scotland fan, because it's the only trophy we've ever won.
Remember that? Yeah.
But yeah, it is basically a couple of friendlies for Japan, and then sometimes the two teams that play Japan will also play each other. So I don't know if there's a game scheduled between Canada and Tunisia, but if there is, it might happen in Japan at some point, but I don't know. But yeah, basically a friendly. You know, if this is why I believe Maeda's injury is not too serious, because there was talk of, you know, if this was a World Cup qualifier or whatever, he could probably have been put into the squad. But as it stands tonight, he's not even on the bench. So I think, you know, Moriyasu's just thought, look, we've got plenty of striking options. We're going to win these games anyway. I mean, Japan were 2-0 up last time I checked. So I really don't think it's worth risking Maeda. And also, when you've got, you know, at least 3 players coming from the same club, it's good diplomacy to not upset that club by playing a player who's possibly carrying an injury and aggravating that injury in an ultimately meaningless friendly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense, Liam. Also, though, last time I checked before we went live, Japan were winning 1-0, courtesy of Kyogo's opening goal, Liam. Where are we with that now?
Let me just give you a wee update
I
here.
just had a wee check. It's 94th minute. Both their guys have been subbed off. Kyogo and Hatate are off the field now, but you could say Kyogo's made his impact.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Hatate also, I don't know when he came off, but he had a very good first half. Created some really good stuff. Was almost playing the sort of a Maeda role at one point. He was going wide down the left and getting a lot of service and showing some nice link up play with Kubo in particular. It was interesting to see him playing in a much more attacking role. I mean, he plays an attacking role with Celtic as well, but this was much more like he was basically a straight just playing off the striker, which was really interesting to see. Kyogo actually didn't do that much apart from his goal, which was very well taken.
Mm-hmm.
But he's done what a striker is supposed to do. He's played, he's scored. Hopefully that's enough for Moriyasu to call him up next time when there's a more important game to be played.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'll talk a wee bit more about the form of all the international Celts. Well, not all of them, but a great deal of them who have still got games to play before we move on to a wee bit more of a focus on the game against Hearts. Double Denham need to keep the momentum going against Hearts. Scales and Carter Vickers to be our centre-backs. O'Reilly and Rio keeping up their form. A Palma, Worldly and a Kyogo hat-trick. It all will make for a great Sunday. Well, you know what? If you don't ask, you don't get. Going back to asking Brendan Rodgers to come to a St. Rock's game, and he done it. You just never know with these things. It's phenomenal. I'm going to bring up a wee part of the blog that James wrote earlier on. Check it out on Acsom.net, where it was Hearts 3, Celtic 4, and it was the introduction of VAR to Scottish football on the 22nd of October 2022, which eagle-eyed viewers will realise was exactly 1 year before obviously the game on Sunday. So that's the 1 year anniversary. But here's how Celtic lined up, and of course managed by Ange Postecoglou. Joe Hart, Tony Ralston, Carter Vickers, Yents and Bernabe made up the defence. Taylor came on after 66 minutes.
Bernabe getting rinsed off Gianelli for, I think it was Hearts' goal to put them 2-1 up.
Yeah. He really was showing up for the defensive frailties that I think that became a concern pretty early on, James, and it's still a concern now. He's more or less out the picture at the minute. Midfield, Moy, O'Reilly, Hatate, and Hatate was substituted. I'm going to see, guys, James might throw a wee grenade in here. Who came on for Hatate 1 year ago? Liam?
Oliver Abelgard.
It was, and people were saying, well, James wrote the blog, he knows. He didn't really give Liam a chance to dive in there. But yeah, Abelgard, 92nd minute substitute. James A. Forrest, the man who I think will start if Maeda is injured, started the game with Maeda on the left and Giakoumakis through in the middle. Haksabanovic and Abada came on for the two wingers. But it just shows you how much things have changed in 1 year. 1 year is a long time in the world of Celtic. Gary Madden doesn't think that Hearts away is a game to try Mikey Johnston. He's been out this first team for a long time. He's obviously been playing international football. He played a lot of games in Portugal last season as well. He appeared in more games last season on loan than he ever has done for Celtic in a complete season. So he's played enough football. It's just that he hasn't played it for Celtic now. The underwater cabbage salesman, Mikey is injury prone, therefore unreliable, unfortunately. Discussion over, a real shame. Do you think it's discussion over, James, for Mikey? Maybe not this Sunday, but generally under Brendan Rodgers?
Well, I think if he was going to make it at Celtic, he would have made it by now. But the injuries have just got in the way. It was clear when he broke through in the first place that he was, despite possessing a lot of talent, there was evidently a lot of quality there. He was the type of player who needed game time to develop and eke out any sort of weaknesses, because the main criticism people had of his game was his indecisiveness in the final third. And the only way you're going to sort of improve that, eke that out of your game, is by playing more football. And his injury record just wouldn't allow him to do that. And from what I heard when he went on loan to Vitória Guimarães over in Portugal, it was just more the same from what we've seen him from at Celtic. You would see flashes of brilliance, but final third, when it gets to that final hurdle of creating the chance or whatever, they didn't really provide the finishing touch. The most we've seen of him the last year in a positive sense has been a couple of good performances in friendly games against Estonia and Gibraltar. I don't think that makes you Celtic quality, if I'm going to be honest. But you always want to see the players from youth academy succeed. And I think, would you argue that a youth academy player would get more opportunities just because they've come from the academy? Do you think Brendan Rodgers would be more likely to want to give Mikey Johnston another opportunity because he's a homegrown talent?
You know, I think it does play into the mindset of a football club, because you've got to make players believe that there is a pathway. This is a point Daniel makes here, because obviously it's connected, right? So Daniel says that I'd still rather see Vata given that spot, because if we don't give him a pathway, he's off ski if he isn't already. From what I hear, Rocco Vata doesn't want to leave Celtic. You know, he wants the game time. He is an ambitious player who wants to play for the club. But if you do, you know, ship your young guys out after they've made that breakthrough, Liam, it does send a message to young players. I mean, we've lost a lot of young guys, Ben Doak being the most difficult one to accept in recent times, but it does send a message, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that is the one downside to broadening our horizons in terms of our international intake. You know, as we've embraced Australia, Japan, Korea, it has unfortunately closed off the pathway for a lot of very, very good younger players who have gone on. You know, we've had guys that have gone to Bayern Munich. We've had guys like Ben Doak went to Liverpool. You know, these are players, they're not going, it's not like you've no made it at Celtic, go and play for Albion Rovers. No disrespect to Albion Rovers, but, you know, you've got players there who are going to top class clubs elsewhere and are progressing within their youth setup. So it's not the quality, it is the opportunity that is the issue. And again, it's not just Celtic. You know, I mean, you can put them in the B team, but how much are you going to learn about a player's international level ability playing against civil service strollers? You know, I mean, it's no realistic.
No, you're spot on, and I think that, you know, we had that discussion actually when it was the Michael Muffet testimonial, the Ayr United game. We were all kind of desperate for a game of football, and some of the fringe players were in that team as well. So it's twofold. There is a missing bridge between youth football and the first team. And then when you get to Rocco Vata's stage where, you know, he just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing to develop, and you can see it in the international stage where he's going through the underage levels, he can't do it. If Celtic are winning, he's not going to break through. He just can't do it, because Celtic are in a situation where there's no reserve league. There is no bridge between the youths and the first team. And it's a danger. It's a danger because you're going to lose young players, but it's also a danger because you're going to have players who stagnate. There's a clutch of guys at the moment at Celtic who are not playing. It was the same last season. And if they don't go out on loan, they're stagnating for 6 months at a time, and then hopefully their agent will get them another loan. So listen, Liam Scales is one of the guys. If he never got his loan, how many games would he have played last season? And he's a success story, so fair play to him. And Jungle Lion points out that Ray Houghton, Castle Milk Boy, who was a brilliant Irish internationalist when I was growing up, gave Mikey Johnston man of the match last night on Irish telly. And I'm just going to go back to Sunday when I was talking to Paul Byrne. Paul Byrne, obviously the Irishman who went to Oxford and made his debut at 16 years of age in the same team as Ray Houghton. And he eventually came to play for Celtic. So, yeah, you're right, Jungle Line. He played well. Is he good enough to get a game under Brendan Rodgers? We shall see. I want to talk, though, before we move away from Hatate and Kyogo. I'll come to you first, James. In relation to Kyogo then, right? So I think he's had a decent season. I think that he's being deployed differently under Brendan Rodgers than he was under Ange Postecoglou. But I still have a concern that he doesn't have a backup. I don't think we've got, at 60 minutes, someone, James, in terms of a striker, that you can take Kyogo off, he's done his job, and you can bring someone on. Or in a scenario where Kyogo's getting nothing, he's getting nothing out of the defence, and we need something different. Is O that man? Because he's not had the game time, and because of that, he's not really made the impact, has he?
Yeah, you saw towards the tail end of last season, there's clearly a player there. The main argument people have if they're trying to discredit O is they go back to the man who was the backup striker before, and that is Joris Giakoumakis. And if you're lining up Celtic for a Champions League game, would you take O over Joris Giakoumakis starting up front? Or if you're playing against Rangers, would you rather O or Joris Giakoumakis starting up front? I think we all know who we're going to pick there. So I think his game time's really dwindled at the start of this season, but he's not really made an impact when he's been on the park either. He's just been unfortunate that the games have effectively been done when he has been brought onto the park. 5-10 minutes left to go. The game's Celtic are already 3 or 4-0 up. There's not really room to make much of an impact. And that's probably one of the disappointing things about exiting the Viaplay Cup so early, is you would look to be using the cup games to give your fringe players these opportunities, but we don't have that chance anymore. But the main argument I see when people are talking about Celtic is there's the pressure to win every single week. You have to win every single week. There's no room to rotate. But if you look at the Premier League, Man City are expected to win every single week. And they're giving 16, 17-year-olds game time sort of every week. There's a young guy, Oscar Bob, there, who's been playing. He's been getting about 20 minutes, half an hour every 2 weeks. If they can give young players like that an opportunity coming from the Premier League too, then I'm sure Celtic can as well.
If we are looking at a scenario at the weekend and we've got Kyogo, Maeda, and up top Kyogo, Maeda and Palmer, right? And you're looking on the bench and you think, right, who's my backup option for the right wing position? So this is what it comes down to at Celtic. I'm guessing none of you are going to say Rocco Vata. What do you think, James? Because that's the only way we can introduce a player. It's the only way, because he's 18, Tynecastle away. It's a big fixture, of course it is. He's had a clutch of games last season. When do you throw him into a game like that and say, right, make a difference? Is it Sunday? Because if it's not, then I get worried about having players like that who have got bags of talent and potential, and we're just never willing to play them.
No, it's an interesting point you raise, because we've just been speaking about basically all the wingers at the club at the moment. Yang, we seem to be 50-50 on, still seems pretty raw. James Forrest is a bit past it, if I'm going to be honest. Mikey Johnson seems to be completely out of the picture. So if those are your three options, then why not give the young homegrown talent an opportunity to go and try and showcase his abilities? But I think the argument people would have against it is Tynecastle's a notorious tough stadium to go to with a hostile atmosphere. Is that the sort of game you want to throw an 18-year-old in for his first start for Celtic? I'm not entirely sure. It's a real sink or swim scenario. And if Vata puts in a poor display and Celtic lose, what does that do to his confidence? It's a big risk. I think if you're going to give a player like Vata an opportunity, you're looking for a game like, no disrespect, but Ross County at home. You're looking at a game like that as the sort of game where you would give a young player an opportunity.
Well, it is a difficult one, and I think even given that scenario, Liam, it shows you how difficult it is, because last season it was the game when O tried his utmost to impress Jurgen Klinsmann, remember, and Vata put a couple on a plate, and I've still seen Rocco Vata getting a hard time after the game. So it's like you can't win. But again, with regards to James's point about a hostile atmosphere and an away day, a toxic atmosphere, surely the sink or swim thing has worked in the past, Liam, for various youngsters over the years. And I know the game has changed, but let's use Peter Grant for an example. He made his debut against Rangers at Ibrox as a 17-year-old. So I think that sometimes you've just got to challenge a youngster and test them in that way. What do you think, Liam? Is it something that, you know, as a young player at the moment, you're probably looking at the amount of right wingers that we've signed and thinking to yourself, that's a big enough message that I'm not going to make that progress?
Yeah, I think that's the problem. It is a make or break scenario, and it's also a no-win scenario potentially for the manager, because if he plays his strongest 11, which at the moment does not include Vata, then, you know, people are saying, oh, give the youth a chance. How are we going to bring through the young players if you never play them? He plays Vata and he has a bad game and we end up losing like 2 or 3-1. Everyone's like, what are you doing throwing him in against Hearts? You know, it's either way, the manager has been set up for a fall there. And I don't blame a manager, particularly if you're the manager of Celtic or Rangers. You can't really. The games where you can afford to bring in youth players are very, very few. Effectively, last season we couldn't really do it until we'd already won the league. It's not like in England where people don't really take the League Cup seriously, so that's a good chance to play youth players. In Scotland, every season we talk about going for the treble, and that includes the League Cup, so you have to take it seriously.
Yeah.
There's also very little scope for playing, friendly matches or whatever, because we've got such a packed schedule as it is. We can't accommodate these players at the moment, and it's a situation that is not going to improve until there is structural change within Scottish football.
Nah, you're spot on with that. It's not built for it at the moment, Liam. And I think the one time that I felt we missed a trick when it came to giving youth a chance was during the 9 in a row period, where there was a domination, where you're looking at a lot of the fixtures thinking that there's surely 12 games a season where you could give game time. And I don't just mean throw random young guys in the team, but work on 3 or 4 a season. Try and get them the game time. 12 games at home, like James says, and fixtures where you could maybe give them half an hour, sometimes a half. See how they react to that, and then build it from there. But I think it was a missed opportunity during that period. NPM SEO MJ to get time off the bench on Sunday. He's in Champions League squad. Need to use him in case we need him in Europe. That's a potential consideration as well. Stevie Boy, Big Sutton should be charging them rent. Absolutely. You wouldn't go toe-to-toe with Chris Sutton, would you? And we've got Senan Short. All the best and a speedy recovery. John Shirley. John is a regular contributor to the live stream, and he's going in to hospital tomorrow to get his cataracts out. So let's say, John, you can listen to us. You might not be able to watch us for a few days, but all the best. Hopefully it goes well, and you're back fighting fit for the weekend. I've never had the operation. I don't know how long that takes, but I hope that it's painless for you and you get back to watching Celtic ASAP. Now, see, when we're looking at wait a wee second here, I'm going to bring this back up. Just before you guys arrived, I played Jerry's video. It was like a day in the life, 2 or 3 minute video of a Celtic fan getting to play for Celtic. And there's actually a part of it where he's just reacting to Brendan Rodgers walking in the dressing room, and it looks tremendous. There's a few comments coming in. Big C, Jerry's video was class. I'd be so excited to. Don't worry about my kids. They hear worse. Yes. There was a couple of wee swearies. Hatate obviously played today. James, that initial bump in the road, if you like, is he over it under Brendan Rodgers?
Yeah, it seems to be the most sort of recent fixtures. I think following the injury, it took him a while to get it going. I think that was just a lack of match sharpness, and it was the games against a higher level opposition, especially where he was getting caught out, which is coincidentally the games where you're probably going to get pressed more. You're going to have higher quality players around you trying to cause you problems, but he's slowly been getting back to his best. I thought the game against Livingston a couple of weeks ago was one of his best games of the season so far. And then the final game before the break, it was Dundee at home. I thought he looked back to his best. He seems to be hitting his stride along with this Celtic team, which is no coincidence at all that those two are going hand in hand, because Celtic are at their best when Rio Hatate is at his best. He's a real high-quality player, and we've got some tough fixtures coming up in the Champions League in particular. You've got a double header against Atletico Madrid, which it's sort of doubtful whether we're going to salvage some points from that double header, considering the start to the campaign. But if we are going to get anything, then you need Rio Hatate to be at the top of his game, which he hasn't been in the Champions League so far. But if he can carry on his recent performances in Scotland over to that Champions League double header and carry it on domestically as well, then it will only benefit the team, I think.
Well, Liam, you have commented on the Japanese players, the success of those players since day one. Obviously, you and I have discussed over the piece some of the other guys like Ideguchi, Iwata, Kobayashi, who I don't think you would say have been roaring successes yet at Celtic. I'm not willing to write off Iwata, I've got to say. What's the coverage like over there? Is it settled down a wee bit, or is it still a wee bit kind of Beatlemania-esque over there for the Celtic players? I remember seeing adverts on the underground and all that kind of stuff. Is there still a bit of media interest?
In all honesty, not really. It's, Celtic coming to Japan was a big deal. But the tour is done and dusted now. And the way those kind of things are promoted, it's like, you build up, then once it's done, that's it. You move on to whatever's next. I was in a subway station in Osaka the day after the Celtic game, and they were actually taking down one of the posters promoting the game and putting up a poster promoting the Queen concert that's coming next March. So they're not slow to update their things that way. But no, look, people still talk about it. There's always an interest in how Japanese players do in other countries. Yeah. And Celtic are kind of unique in the sense that we have so many Japanese players in one team, albeit not all of them playing every week. But it's definitely a source of interest, because any player that makes it in Europe is elevated in the Japanese press to a level above what J League players are, which I think is a bit unfair, because the J League is a quality league, but there is that perception that you've moved up a level if you've gone to Europe, and Celtic are getting attention because we have a concentration of players here, and also we've got 3 of them who hopefully now are established fixtures in the Japanese national squad. Don't know if Kyogo would play as much if Daisen was fit, if I'm being honest, because Daisen is preferred over Kyogo at the moment, particularly with the formation Moriyasu plays. But yeah, it's a good place to be in if you're a club that was looking to try and broaden your Japanese fan base. Unfortunately, I don't see much from the business side of Celtic in terms of doing that. So that's a discussion for another time, but we have a prime audience here and we're not capitalising on it at the moment.
No. Obviously, we talk about it. Listen, we're happy with what's happening on the park, largely. Many of us are happy with the manager. I've obviously backed Brendan since he came back. It's no favouritism thing. It's not a hindsight thing. I just felt it was the right move. He was the best coach we could possibly get at the club. But there's nothing wrong, Liam, with coming up with ways that other aspects of the club could operate. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a massive criticism. It's just that you're there on the ground. You can actually see what's happening there, and you're commenting on it. I do the Wandering Paradise.
I can also see what other clubs do when they come here.
Yeah.
Manchester City, the example I keep going back to, their tickets were priced about the same as J League tickets. They brought the Premiership trophy with them. They were champions at the time. They brought the Premiership trophy with them. Fans could go to the stadium on the day of the game and have their photo taken with the trophy. They did various sort of local school engagement things and meeting with the community, and it was a really well conducted and fairly priced, which I think is most important thing. And as a result, Man City have got a growing fan base in Japan now, even though they don't have any Japanese players.
Yeah.
Celtic, honestly, if I'm being brutally honest and taking my Celtic supporting glasses off for a minute, the whole Japan tour just seemed like a smash and grab. It was just get over here, bilk as much money out of them as you can, then get out again. That was how it felt. It was just money, money, money. You want a scarf? That'll be 25 quid. You want a shirt? Oh, that'll be, if you want it in a size that's not like a bikini on you, it'll be, 100 odd quid. Want a name on it? There's another 30 quid.
Yeah.
It was just absolute, and the cheapest tickets that you could buy if you wanted to be guaranteed to sit next to your family or whatever, started at 70 quid. It's just completely out of the reach of ordinary fans. Anecdotally, I can tell you there was about half a dozen kids who I teach at school who are big football fans, big fans of Daisen because he used to play here. That I'm responsible basically for them becoming Celtic fans because I talk a lot about Celtic in the class with them. And they were broken-hearted because they're like, my mum and dad said that we just can't afford this. We can't afford, the 200 odd quid it's going to cost to go to Yokohama. Probably about another 100 quid for a hotel for the night, and then 70 quid a skull for tickets if it's a family of 4. That's you're talking close to £1,000 just to go and watch a football match, and it's ridiculous.
It is. It's the same old situation with looking at a short-term gain, rather than building something on a long-term basis. I mean, I don't say typical of Celtic. I just think generally when it comes to modern football. So that's disappointing. There's been a few things over the years that I've pitched, and I was going to mention there when we do the Wander in Paradise down the Janefield Street, which is the tunnel underneath the North Stand. Get my bearings right. Is it? Aye. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it is. And when you walk under there, I've said before, obviously, it's quite, it's like a concrete graveyard. You've got the big breeze blocks on the left-hand side. And for me, I see them as blank canvases. And just the other day there, I sadly counted them. There's 28 different opportunities on each of these big spaces for beautiful murals denoting specific moments and victories and players and characters in the club's history, times 28. So, there's things that the club could do, and it just improves the experience of anybody walking around the stadium who visits Celtic Park. And that's one thing that I would love to see. And I might even pitch that to the club at some point, speak to the guys in there. The other one was, of course, the bandstand that should be on the Clover every single match day. There should be a bandstand there playing music for the fans on the Celtic Way as part of some kind of fan zone. And I've suggested previously that we very rarely wear the third jersey. So why not make it a charity jersey year on year, either for the foundation or for the former Players Association as well. So that's a few of my suggestions, just tiny wee tweaks that the club might be able to implement and probably could at low cost. David C. Look how the fans wet their knickers at a home draw against St Johnstone. Imagine Vata was playing in that. I think it's the point that was made earlier. Yeah, you get a bad result, you're on a hiding to nothing as a gaffer. Robert Highland, Vata did not have a bad game. Quiet game, maybe. Yeah, he didn't. I don't think he had a poor performance. An underwater cabbage salesman. Absolutely, PJ. Sometimes we get caught up in the no pathway, which is a valid concern. But sometimes you need to put the players in and let them adapt and develop. Games, you're ahead, etc. 5-10 minutes. Yeah, I would like to see it at some point in this season. I'm not criticising the gaffer, I think. He's done a great job since he came in. One final thing to discuss. I'm admiring your T-shirt there, Liam. You have been hard at it, and we spoke the other week there about what you're doing for mental health awareness. You're raising funds, and you're pushing that out on Celtic Down Under. Tell us about your progress. How are you getting on with that?
Right, well, I've literally been there, done it, and bought the T-shirt. The One Foot Forward initiative is something that they do in Australia every year, organised by a group called the Black Dog Institute, which conducts research and outreach programmes into mental health support. We at Celtic Down Under have challenged ourselves to try and do individual walking challenges. Now, if you've been watching for a few months, you might have noticed I've lost a wee bit of weight, right? I've been on quite a heavy training regime pretty much since I moved in with the wife in April. she's got me well taught. And part of that involves a lot of walking. So I challenged myself to do 300 kilometres within the month of October. I completed that on Saturday.
Smashed it. Brilliant.
So as of today, I have done, let me just see, 331.4 kilometres. So, so far, we've managed to raise, well, as a group, Celtic Down Under have raised over $2,000. So well done, everybody. There's 11 of us at it, and we're all pitching in. I've managed to accrue about $400 odd. I want to try and get to 500. I think 500 is a nice round number. So several Acsom viewers have already pitched in, and thank you so much for that. As I said before, I'll say it again, even a few pennies could save somebody's life here if you're talking about mental health. Just the cost of a phone call is all it could take sometimes. I've had mental health issues myself. I know other people that contribute to Acsom also have had mental health problems in the past. And we need to raise awareness. We need to take away the fear of talking about this stuff. And this campaign is part of that. So I hate to say it, but I'm going to get the begging bowl out one last time. The link is, I believe, in the show notes today, hopefully. Yeah, so please donate if you can. I have pledged for every $100 that comes in, after I put in $100 yesterday because I got my pay, because I promised I would. I stuck in $100, and I will put in a further $10 for every $100 that comes in between now and the end of October. So if we can get up and over that 500, that's another tenner I'll chuck in. And you know what? See, even if you're a Rangers fan who's just hate watching this, think of this. All it would cost you is about 100 grand, and you could bankrupt me. Go for it.
Go for it, indeed. Liam, as you say, we will share that link. Well, very, very well done, by the way. Any effort to try and raise awareness and help others who are suffering mental health issues. I remember speaking to a Scottish journalist, very well-known Scottish journalist. He says it's time that we just call it a health issue. It's just a health issue. It's, there's this stigma where if it's mental health, people think there's something more wrong with you than having an issue with your leg or an issue with your heart. It's an issue that you need to go and deal with. So it's great to get it out in the open there, Liam, and very well done to you and the guys at Celtic Down Under. I will be adding that link underneath this video, so click on it and help bankrupt Liam. That could be the tagline for it, Liam, right? Because he's chucking his hard-earned dollars in himself as well.
I'm already going to be a few $100 down for a new computer by the looks of it, so yeah.
I know, and I'm going to have to buy some nice jazzy paintings for behind me here because we've all got grey walls, but we will jazz that up, and I'm sure I've got a few wee frames that Celtic related that I can put up on that wall as well. I'm going to put the mannequins up with the latest jerseys that are coming in for the Jamie Tierney appeal. They are still coming in thick and fast. It's a phenomenal appeal, and we're going to keep pushing for that one as well. Listen, I've really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the international break because we had the St. Roch's game to contend with as well, which was a phenomenal experience that we'll never forget. Thank you, every single one of you, for getting involved in the comments, and thank you to James Mackenzie and Liam Carrigan for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.